Hey there. Welcome to Toy Talk with Mike
and Chad.
Episode 11, or Mike's Collection Legacy Numbering, episode 207. 207. Okay. So, I'm Mike, he's Chad. What are we going to talk about today?
I think I have a bunch of DC stuff since the last time I was on, and maybe a bit of talk about some of the figures. The last episode I was on, we talked about our 10 most wanted DC figures.
Right.
And there was an announcement literally the next day after that. So
yeah, that was pretty. It's been a month since I've seen you. We shot 2 episodes that night, the DC one, and then another one that I posted later. But after that, I went on vacation, and then you had COVID, and so it's been a month since we've got together. So we probably have lots to talk about. I know you've got a shitload of DC figures. Do we want to start with that, or?
Sure, I'll start. Why not?
All right. So, actually, before you even get into, you've got this massive Santa sack full of stuff there.
He's not kidding.
So last time, that episode that you were just talking about.
Yes.
You said your top 10 most wanted McFarlane figures. Mm-hmm. And then literally with 24 hours later, he announced...
So I said I wanted a Solomon Grundy figure.
Yeah.
Put one out. It's a Build-A-Figure.
And it's specific to the one you wanted, right? You wanted Arkham Asylum or whatever.
Yeah, that was amazing. And then he announced a DC animated line, and there was
2 or 3 or 4 more of the
other and I'm just wow, what is the chances of that happening? Because it was a wish list. He's already got the animated series Batman. I think that was one of the first figures he put out for the Multiverse.
Yeah.
But I guess he
wasn't did he put it a John Stewart Green Lantern or something? I feel there was 1 or 2 kind of oddities before. Yeah. But now he's kind of focusing on it, I guess. Yeah,
so it was pretty neat to... He must have watched the episode or something.
And then produce the figures that night.
Hard at work.
But again, since we talked a month ago, he's probably revealed 5 waves of figures or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We were talking about Flash and how Flash is kind of one of those characters where his rogue gallery is pretty much a mirror image of himself, except with different color costumes.
Yeah.
But he put out a Flash wave, which now I might have to buy also, because he's got the original Jay Garrick.
Yep.
He's got Wally West, and he has... what was the other one? Kid Flash, I think.
Now, I did know, for Jay Garrick especially, are these based on a look in a comic book, or are they based on the classic look just slightly tweaked by McFarlane for his own... Because they look a little, modernized. Jay Garrick's costume is Golden Age.
Yeah.
But this looks like more of a contemporary version. None of the versions in that Flash wave look like versions of those characters that I've actually seen on the page, but I'm not all that up to date on my...
I want to say Garrick is a mix of the two. The others look like they're modernized big time. Yeah. I don't know. I'm highly considering just getting Garrick in that wave. I don't know. I'm still not really a big fan of his rogue gallery. I don't know. It's kind of plain.
Yeah. And, he's got some cool villains. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of Spider-Man has a ton of cool villains.
Yeah.
And Batman has cool villains. But they've got kind of the A-listers, your Jokers and your Dr. Octopuses and your Green Goblins and your Two-Faces. But then they've got the second stringers, your Shockers and your Boomerangs and your Ventriloquist and all that stuff. The Flash seems to me he only has the second stringers.
Yeah.
Even his main villains, is it...
Reverse Flash, Godspeed.
And Captain Cold.
Cold.
That's a stupid name.
Yeah.
It's a stupid costume.
Yeah.
Mirror Master. I don't know. There's a bunch of dorky ones.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But no matter.
I'm trying to remember. I don't read the Flash comic right now, so...
Me neither. And I never have really religiously, so maybe he's got some cool villains that I don't know about. But...
The Thinker.
The
Thinker.
Is that one of his?
Yeah.
I know Marvel has a Mad Thinker.
Mm-hmm.
He's not very interesting either. So, anyway, So, yeah, another thing we talked about DC-wise recently is that you were going to build the Atrocitus Build-A-Figure. And then shortly after that, because you had ordered 1 or 2 of the figures online, and you said you still needed 2 more figures.
Yeah.
And then I went out like a day or 2 later and I found them. And I picked them up for you,
yeah,
figuring you would come get them like the next day.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance.
But now it's been a month.
Yeah.
So first, before you get into your stash, I'll hand these off to you. So here is your Kyle Rayner Green Lantern.
Excellent.
With Atrocitus torso.
Thank you.
And Deathstorm, which is the dead version of Firestorm from Blackest Night.
This is probably the one that I was most looking forward to in the wave. Just I don't have a figure of him in my collection.
Alive or dead?
Alive or dead. So it's nice to have a dead one at least.
Yeah, and he's cool. So now, we did kind of talk about it like, what if, when you did get these figures, are you going to open them to build Atrocitus? So now you have all the Atrocitus pieces, are you going to open them up and build them?
Yes, I have no choice.
I also thought it was funny, I don't know if you were going to talk about your ring or not, but like, just before we started filming, you were showing me your Green Lantern ring that your buddy 3D printed for you. And you sent me a message the other day about your buddy who 3D prints. Mm-hmm. I assume the same guy.
It's the same guy.
You said, my buddy's going to start doing like display bases for action figures.
Yes.
And I was thinking, well, that's neat, but what the hell are you going to do with them since you don't open any of your action figures? You don't need them for your boxes.
Well, he was laughing at that also. I kind of do need them. I think I'm going to work on the next month or so buying at least one big shelf to start unpacking some of my figures to put them on. So we were kind of working out this little scheme where we'd get a 3D model of a display figure and we're going to test out like maybe 3 or 4 of them and see which one works best and then try to mass produce them. We were talking maybe take them to local comic shops and sell them to them and see if they would like bring them in on consignment or something.
What would be nice, like maybe some people are picky about what their stands look like and they want them really clean and everything. Mm-hmm. But like I know, for example, Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe Classified, some of these brands that I need stands for. What's frustrating is there are some generic brands of stands out there, but Hasbro's not consistent with the peg holes in their figures. So you think you buy all consistent stands and it usually works for maybe all your male characters, but your female characters have smaller feet and their holes are smaller, so they don't work. So I would just throw it there to your buddy. Make a circle with like 6 different size pegs on it. Because, you know, if I got thicker ones for the male's feet and there's a couple little ones on there, I don't care if those little extra pegs are there. Yep. But rather than have to worry and know exactly how many thick peg stands I need and little peg stands I need, and it's not even consistent across the board, like men or women, or, you know, it's just like some men characters have little holes and some women ones have big holes. So it's just like, yeah, a stand with multiple pegs. That's what I'm looking for.
So we're actually going to be the guinea pigs for this.
Yeah, man.
So I was saying to him that most of the action figures that I collect don't come with stands. And it's kind of annoying because I have the Peter Parker Spider-Man from the Into the Spider-Verse Marvel Legends line. Right. And he always falls down. And it's annoying. My Greedo has been falling down. And I don't know why. Because he just randomly started out of nowhere. So I don't have stands either. Yeah. And that's where he was like, well, I can probably 3D print a couple for you. But if they're good enough and they... Thingiverse has different models of them. So people upload actual, like, G.I. Joe classified ones. They'll upload, like, Hasbro specific ones. Yeah. So we're going to print off a couple and see how that works out.
Yeah, like, I don't need anything fancy. Mm-hmm. Like, those Action Force figures that I've been buying lately, they've got really cool stands because it looks like stainless steel and the name Action Force is, like, etched into it. Cool, but I'm fine with just a black circle. You know, that's all I really need. So, yeah. Guinea pig away.
So my friend, Adam, said friend, actually 3D printed me a Green Lantern ring. And I do have the willpower, so I'm good to go.
Let's see a construct.
It only fits on my pinky finger, because I have very fat fingers. So I don't know if I'll wear this yet or not. I might just keep it on a display stand, see if he can print me one.
It's a pretty big ring to...
It's massive. Yeah.
People are going to notice that. For sure.
Yeah. So thank you, Adam.
I'm not a ring guy. I don't even wear my wedding ring. All right. So yeah, let's get into your figures. What did you get DC wise?
Okay. So DC wise, aside from the two that you picked up for me, my friend Adam's brother actually plays this game called Crane Game Toriba, which is like a Japanese virtual crane game. And there's a bunch of crane machines in a warehouse.
So like a claw, like a Toy Story claw. Okay.
There's a bunch of machines in a warehouse somewhere in Japan.
Yeah.
And you can get it on your Switch and a couple other consoles, I think. But you basically upload money to an account, and then each credit gives you a chance to draw something, and they ship it to you. He actually won me a Harley Quinn statue. So I took it out Friday, had a look at it. It's still wrapped up, so I think you said you'll do a cut-in just to get a better image of the...
Yeah, like with something like this, I can just find an image online, or we can shoot some close-up footage later.
Might do some close-up footage. I only have one of her ponytails in, but you're not going to get a good look.
Yeah, the light glares off her
skin. We'll see, but yeah, it's a statue. I was actually surprised with
plastic or just...
Okay. It's got some weight to it. I was actually surprised with the quality of it because, you know, some things I was concerned it was going to be like a Wish statue. No, not so much. So, thank you, Alexander Bailey, for that.
Shout out Alexander Bailey.
And Bailey. And his wife, yeah. All right, so the next one was that Red Robin I was talking about. So this was the guy that I paid $42.99 for whatever reason. Yeah. And then you said you saw him that same day that you went there for $30. So that was a great find on Amazon. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Bezos.
Nice him. It's pretty cool. Tim Drake was my favorite Robin, although I think Damian might have edged him out in more recent years. But I still really like the one I have from DC Direct. It's probably not nearly as posable as this one, but it's you can see him right there. He's a front.
Yes.
I like that figure. So, but yeah, this one's cool. All right.
Yeah. Besides the $42.99 price tag.
No Build-A-Figure on that one, though.
No.
Okay.
So this is the next one in the Atrocitus figure, in the Build-A-Way figure. So this is the Blackest Night. This was actually the first one that I ordered out of the wave back in March, I want to say, when they announced it. And I completely forgot about him, and then was sprung with that random $34.99 charge on my credit card, and was like, what was that? Found out it was him. Yeah, so Batman from the Blackest Night. He has Atrocitus' arms.
And that's one thing, we shit on McFarlane a little bit because, like, when characters have unmasked heads, you have to buy a whole figure with the mask on, and you get a whole other figure without the mask on. Whereas Marvel Legends, they usually just give you two heads that you can swap out. But Build-A-Figure wise, you'll notice here on this Batman, he comes with two Atrocitus arms, which is nice. So you usually only have to buy 3 or 4 figures to complete your Build-A-Figure. Whereas with Marvel Legends, you have to buy 6 or sometimes even 7. Because you only get one arm with a figure, one leg with a figure, a head, a torso, and then their weapons or whatever. So yeah, this is, I much prefer this. Only having to buy 3 or 4 figures.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah.
And the other one is the one that I left at home, which I showed last time, the Superman. The Blackest Night Superman.
Right.
It's like the caved-in face.
So that was with the 2 legs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the Frost King wave came out.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know who the hell the Frost King is.
I don't either. This is one story I haven't read, Justice League Endless Winter. Mm-hmm. So it is a specific storyline. Anyways, this Wonder Woman, not a big fan of some of McFarlane's takes on Wonder Woman.
So did he design this, or is this based on a comic book?
This is based...
it looks like comic art in the background.
This is comic. So, I don't know. I haven't read it, but...
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this look either, just because I usually like the classics. This isn't a bad looking costume. Like, it kind of looks like if Wonder Woman was in Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah.
That seems to be the premise. Because even that's what the Frost King looks like if you build him, and he looks like, one of those big Game of Thrones ice giant guys. So yeah, it definitely looks like this storyline was inspired by Game of Thrones. So all right, so that comes with the torso.
Next we have Batman. He's got this kind of housecoat looking snow parka thing going on.
Yeah.
Also with 2 arms. Thank you, Todd.
And a sword.
And a sword. And Frost King's sword.
Yeah, so you get both the Frost King's arms, a sword, and Batman himself looks like he comes with a batarang or something. So that's not a bad looking Batman, but yeah, it's not as like if you're getting a Wonder Woman based on Game of Thrones, it would have been nice to get a Batman that was kind of Game of Thronesy. This looks just like Batman with some goggles and a housecoat on. Mm-hmm. So a little underwhelming, but okay.
Next one is the one that I was most excited for in that wave, and this is a comic accurate Black Adam, which is the only one that I have in my collection. So let's see if you can get a close up of his face on an angle there without the glare. But he has both of the legs, which is nice, right. And he's got some little force powers there. One thing I will note, his little lightning symbol there. He got a lot of flack for his Shazam version that he just put out. Yeah, Todd McFarlane's latest sculpt for the comic accurate Shazam.
Yeah.
This little bib thing with the lightning bolt on it, it's like hanging way off of Shazam. So the whole community was like, why did you do that? That looks really stupid, instead of just sculpting it onto his uniform and painting it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm excited for Black
So
Adam.
I can't remember. Did you buy one of the like Dwayne Johnson looking Black Adams?
I did not yet.
But you will.
I will. So I went to our local Toys R Us store the other day, which actually had a clearance sale on. All McFarlane figures were 20% off.
Yeah, I didn't get there.
It's on till the 14th. They did have the Rock version, the Dwayne Johnson versions of Black Adam. The only one they had there was the unhooded one. So
okay.
I'm not really a fan of that one.
Yeah, like I said to you, the only figure that off the top of my head that I'm interested in is, I would maybe get that Godspeed guy.
Yep.
I would maybe get a Grifter if he was there. But the Steppenwolf from the Justice League movie, because that's a larger, like, $55 or $60 figure.
And I believe it was there.
So for 20% off, I would maybe get that. It's a cool looking figure, except for his little feet. I hate his little feet.
Which, yes, and it's also funny because with the 20% off, it's basically you're paying the actual MSRP on the figures, so not the inflated Toys R Us price, which
sucks.
The next one is the John Stewart Green Lantern from Endless Winter. We were talking a bit about the Green Lanterns and how I wasn't a fan of John Stewart, but I think he's grown on me. He's started to, I like him. But.
Just at a glance here, though. So, I don't know what this storyline is, but you've got, Game of Thrones Wonder Woman, Housecoat Batman,
and then regular.
This is like a completely standard John Stewart, which is fine. Like, if this is the first version of John Stewart he's made, then this is what I would want. But if there's already half a dozen John Stewarts out there, then why not? Why isn't he wearing a cool helmet and a sword and shit? I don't know.
I wish I knew, but I'm going to have to try to track that story arc down now.
But that is a nice looking John Stewart. Yeah, I forget. I think I've got the Ed McGuinness John Stewart in my collection over there, but yeah, this is a nice kind of non-stylized version.
And that is actually all
for DC,
the DC stuff that I got.
Okay, so I want to talk about some DC stuff that I got.
Sure.
Now this is kind of old news because I bought these things a couple weeks ago and I already told you about them. Now I have not opened them.
Yeah.
I usually do open my toys, but as you probably noticed behind me, there's a couple of things that I keep carded and I pinned on the wall. These ones I'm really torn on, because I think I'm going to keep them carded. But like when I was young, I liked the DC superpower figures. And I might cut in some footage here to give you some close-ups of these, but here's my Superman from the 80s. He's missing his cape. He had a little cloth cape back in the day. Here's Batman. He does still have his little cloth cape. And then here's Darkseid. Now, I actually didn't have very many of these when I was young. The first one I ever got was Mantis, who was a New Gods character, and I had no idea who Mantis was, but I just loved that figure. My little brother had Superman that I inherited from him, and then these I bought from a dude just a few years ago. But that same dude, I ended up buying like 10 Superpowers figures from him, so now my collection has grown over the years. But they're regarded by a lot of people as one of the best toy lines from the 80s. The sculpts are just kind of like...
Basic.
They're very, like, basic, but kind of perfect. Like, it's not stylized. Like, nowadays, every time they make a new Spider-Man cartoon or a new Batman cartoon, there's going to be some new spin on it. Like, oh, now he's got cybernetic enhancements. Now this and this. Like, this was just, like, the most kind of Silver Age, basic versions of Superman, Batman. And they are great. Like, I love the Superman figure. I wish I had his cape. But anyway, McFarlane, and he kind of popped these on people without a whole lot of notice.
Yeah.
He's releasing his own version of the Superpowers. So these are brand new figures. You see the McFarlane Toys logo in the bottom corner there. But the packaging otherwise, other than that logo, that looks pretty much like how these figures came in the 80s. I think the artwork might be the same artwork that was on the vintage card. The logo, the colors, that's all definitely the same. And when I first saw these online, I assumed they were going to be at like that scale. So they were going to be like blown up versions of them. And then when I saw them in stores, and I think they're Walmart exclusives.
They are.
But I was surprised when I came across them because there's only 3 figures in the wave. You can see on the back there's 3 figures and 2 vehicles, which is I thought was pretty surprising that he's getting into vehicles only 3 figures in the series. But I saw all 3 figures there. To be honest, I don't know if I saw the vehicles. I don't think so. I wouldn't have bought them anyway. But when I saw this on shelf, I was like, okay, well, they're not big, but they're not as small as the vintage ones. But then when I got them home and kind of did the side-by-side, like,
it's almost...
Like, I don't know, actually. Like, if I open them up, I might be able to tell, but, like...
Maybe half an inch?
Yeah, maybe, or maybe not even. Like, they look like they could be pretty damn close. And I would hope so. I don't know why he would want to make them, like, either go full big, so it's totally different. But why get that close if you're not going to do the same? Like, it's such a trend right now with Hasbro doing those Star Wars retro and everything that they're making figures that blend in with your vintage collection. So I hope that these guys are the same scale, because I may still open them up.
One thing I do like about the Superman, though, is the symbol on the back of his cape.
Yeah, you can barely see it. You can see that yellow logo on the back of his cape there, which Superman does not always have.
He does not.
But what's interesting, so that Superman is very similar to this other Superman. Mm-hmm. But with the Batman, and I don't know what his justification would have been on this, but you can see it's gray and blue Batman, but he has clearly opted to go with much darker colors. So instead of this very light gray and baby blue, which that was accurate to the comics and the cartoon. Plus the sculpt on this guy looks quite a bit different as well. Like he's much more kind of,
I think his
square jawed.
Yeah, the ears on the cowl look.
Yeah, the belt buckle is different. In the bat symbol, like this guy's got the classic yellow oval around the bat symbol, whereas the new one is just the plain black bat on the gray chest. So, and this artwork is also more modern artwork, so that's definitely not as nostalgic looking as the Superman. Again, I don't know why. It seems a little weird to go so inconsistent. And then, weirder of all is, so we've got Darkseid. Here's Darkseid in his classic 80s, pretty much the look he's had forever since Jack Kirby created him. But then in the New 52, back in 2012? 2011. They did a whole reboot of the DC universe. They made everybody's costumes just busier. Like Superman had kind of the same costume, but just with a bunch of lines, and it flashed the same thing. This is the New 52 contemporary Darkseid. And you can see it's like a completely different costume. Mm-hmm. And this, size-wise, like this Darkseid was bigger than the other superpowers, but this guy is definitely bigger.
girthier.
But he is girthier. But that's accurate too, because I think when the New 52 came along, Darkseid was much larger. Yeah. He was more like a giant as opposed to just a muscly guy. But a weird... I don't know. What do you think?
I like him. I do like him. I like the classic Jack Kirby style Darkseid. But this one, I don't know. There's something contemporary about him. It's...
You know what I find weird here? So... People sometimes make fun of these Golden Age or Silver Age looks because they've got their underwear on the outside of their pants. And I know that might seem a little cheesy to some people, but I like it.
You don't wear your underwear on the outside of your pants?
Usually I only shoot this from the waist up, so who knows what's going on there. But like, Darkseid, for him to be like a intergalactic tyrant.
Yeah.
Sure, this is kind of a silly outfit. He's wearing like little booty shorts. Yeah. Like, it's a little silly. But what the hell is going on with this costume? It's like he doesn't have any pants on at all. He's just smooth crotch, and it's like...
Yeah.
Just, like in the artwork, it looks like he's got little black shorts on, but they obviously kind of didn't paint his shorts black. So he just looks like a weird, smooth-crotched...
Yeah. I saw him at Walmart that day that I went in and didn't pick him up. And I went back the next day and he was gone, so it wasn't meant to be, but I will continue to try to track him down.
You know, these conversations get heated because I'm down here in this room all the time by myself, and my glasses never fog up. But whenever I start doing an episode, my glasses start fogging up here, so I'm just going to remove them because it looks weird when I keep these foggy glasses going. So I'm not sure why that only happens when we're shooting episodes.
Maybe it's just me.
Well, this is, usually I'm in here alone. This is kind of close proximity. And things are cooling down now. It is the mid-September now, hard to believe.
Aside from the 30-degree day we had today.
But yeah, it's been hot still. It cools down in the evenings a little bit more, but we're still getting hot days. So anyway, I like these figures, and I don't know, because he's already announced, like, Wave 2 has been out. I assume he's going to do more. But am I going to go all in on this collection? I don't know. And if I do, am I going to start opening them then?
That's another hole to go down. I don't know. I can't see me being a completionist with that wave. If I pick them up, I think I would go for specific figures.
Well, especially because you're kind of all in on the other thing. I don't buy very many of those other McFarlane DC figures. Because we've talked about it. I've got a nice little DC collection over there of 6-inch figures that I built over a decade back when DC Direct was making those figures. And I don't really feel the need to replace them all. But when you go to a different scale, in a different style, like, these are almost the equivalent of getting, like, say, a Funko Pop. Like, it's a completely different thing than what my figures over there are. But it's like a whole other scale for my entire collection. Like, there's a lot of things right now with, like, G.I. Joes I used to buy 3 3/4 inch, and now I'm buying 6-inch. I used to buy 3 3/4 inch Star Wars, now I'm buying 6-inch. And now with the reaction figures and all these little retro figures that are coming out, I'm kind of finding myself, I'm buying almost as many 3 3/4 inch as I am 6-inch now. So pretty soon I'm probably going to have every character in this collection I'm going to have in the the 6-inch and 3 3/4 inch, and that's fine. I would kind of almost be. I would rather McFarlane make 3 3/4 inch DC figures that I could have interact with my little Star Wars figures and my G.I. Joes. Like, these are neat, but it's an awkward scale just across my entire collection. They don't really fit in with anything. And even though I don't play with my toys, in my head I like to think, what if I ever turn into a kid again or something? I want to play with my toys. I want them to be able to, like, interact. Yeah. And yeah, these Supermans and Batmans are just too big to interact with my 3 3/4 inch Marvel figures. So, I don't know. Okay, I have a couple of other things I wanted to try and squeeze into this episode. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Yes. Okay. So, I always talk about this McFarlane Facebook group that I'm in for Multiverse Canada. And lately, a couple of people have been posting customized figures. What are your thoughts on customized figures? I'm always curious to talk to other toy collectors about this sort of thing.
Like that they make completely from scratch, or they just move somebody's head to another?
They swap parts, or they even take a figure and paint it. Like, that would stress me out. Because what if you had a figure, limited edition, and these things aren't cheap, so if you painted it and screwed it up, and then you can't get it again.
Well, I would never do it. I have no problem with anybody else doing it. And I think people make some pretty cool customs. Like there's a couple guys I follow on Instagram and stuff that just do customs. And some of them I've even considered buying. I have bought a handful. I know you got... I can't remember if I talked about this before, but you guys might be able to see in the background here, I've got my like little Battle Beast collection. That's what's in these clear cases hanging on the wall here. And Battle Beasts are those little like 2-inch figures from the 80s, and they're little animals with battle armor. And I love that line. It's never really been revisited. Anyway, I found some guy online that makes custom Battle Beasts, but they're of different pop culture characters. So they all like look like little Battle Beasts. They're squatty. They have the same armor, except it's like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper, so they look like 80s wrestlers. He's done, I think, Marvel characters, but he's also done some Star Wars characters. And my all-time favorite Star Wars character is Walrus Man, especially the Kenner action figure version of Walrus Man. So not really the movie accurate version, but the green-skinned orange bathing suit version, which again, you can sort of see him here. I've got a big giant deluxe version of the 80s figure blown up there. So you guys won't be able to see this. Maybe I'll put it in an insert. But if you look up at the top shelf of that middle rack there, Chad, of Battle Beast, you'll see there's an orange guy and a yellow guy. So I've got Merman and Walrus Man. Yeah. Battle Beasts. Nice. So those were a guy I found on Instagram. He just made those customs, but they're like resin. They don't move. Battle Beast arms are supposed to move. Those guys are just solid hunks of plastic. So I've bought a couple things like that. And then I almost always, as cool as they are, I sort of regret it because they're not cheap. And then I get it home and like it might look really cool on Instagram, but when you get it in your hand, you can start seeing like, okay, this wasn't professionally painted in a factory. Like this is some guy hand painted it, and you can tell that if I start trying to move it around or do anything with it, the paint's going to chip off. So I find they often look really nice in photographs, but the actual thing, it looks homemade. Yeah. I'm sure there are guys out there that can do like Hasbro accurate, but not a lot of them, I don't think. So I'm not really interested in buying people's customs. I am too precious of my action figures to start painting them myself and everything. So yeah, I guess that's where I stand.
Me too. Yeah, I would never do that. Just, I don't know, I'd be terrified of ruining it. And I'm not a very artistic person, so.
And I did it with occasionally when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I regretted it because it never worked out as well as I would hope. Like, for example, me and my brother, we had the British Bulldogs, like wrestlers, the LJN figures when we were kids. So the LJN wrestlers were just solid hunks of plastic. There was no articulation. They were about, 8 inches tall, and you could just like bash them together. They were just like solid hunks of rubber, essentially. And the British Bulldogs figures, because they were like one of our favorite tag teams, they were wearing their very early 80s outfits, which were just maroon pants with blue boots. But then later, the British Bulldogs went to their more well-known, like their white pants with the Union Jack pants. They were wearing underwear outside of their outfits like this. They had white pants, but they had little blue shorts over top of them with the Union Jack on the bum. And we really liked those more contemporary outfits, so me and my brother decided to paint our wrestlers with the modern pants. But we used like model paint, and the model paint, it just never dried on this material that they were made out of. So they always felt tacky, and they just gathered dust like crazy. So they just had these crazy linty pants, and it didn't really work out so good. I think I probably colored a mustache or two on some of my old figures, and like my Man-at-Arms, for example. Man-at-Arms from He-Man, in the cartoon he always had a mustache, but the vintage toy did not have a mustache. So I think I took a black marker and gave him a mustache, but over time the Sharpie kind of like, it seemed to like kind of spread a little bleed, and it also just kind of turned bluish. So then he just had this miscolored dark lip, and it's just like, so I learned early from my childhood not to fuck with my toys, I think. Yeah. What else is going on? I don't know if you're into yesterday. It just came out. I don't know. It probably came out on Friday. Yesterday was Sunday, and I binge watched the entire new season of Cobra Kai.
I haven't seen it yet.
Are you into it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just haven't had a chance with this past week.
I love that show.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I love the Karate Kid movie, and I like the sequels, not nearly as much as the original, but the original is one of my favorite movies. And when they announced this a few years back, I was like, well, I hope that's cool. I can't imagine it's going to work all that well. And it took me a while to see it, because originally it was on YouTube, and it wasn't...
Red?
So it wasn't easy to find, but then when it ended up on Netflix, I loved it. Like, I couldn't... It was like the best TV show I'd seen in years. Now, was it the best as far as the writing and the acting and everything? Not necessarily, but it just like it hit that nostalgia button just right. The characters were doing what you'd want those characters to be doing, and it was still funny. And
the action sequences,
the action's great, and you care about the new characters as well as the old characters. So even my nephews that are like 12 years old, they like it because they probably relate to the younger kids, whereas I'm more interested in what's going on with Daniel and Johnny and stuff. And I can't believe how every season they just keep, I don't want to say getting better, but they find a new hook and they give you a reason to come back, and they keep bringing back other characters. Like, there wasn't that many characters in those first 3 movies, but somehow they keep finding new takes on it. I love it. So, yeah.
Now, the one thing I will say about that drives me crazy is, as a martial artist, like I have my 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
How quickly the students get good, and like their basic, I don't know how to throw a punch, and then what's probably the equivalent of like 2 weeks later, they're all like fighting machines, and I don't know.
Well, obviously your sensei is not Cobra Kai material. You need a Mr. Miyagi.
I'll get Master Stoic over here, and we'll
don't tell your sensei that I'm dissing him. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw that out. Another thing, I told you I was going to mention this story. I don't know, it doesn't really fit on this channel where we're talking about toys, but my last video, I kind of did a little recap of my Toronto trip, and I shared some video footage of me going to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, which was great. I went and saw like my buddy's drag show, which was a lot of fun. I talked about going to the comic book stores and going to restaurants and everything. Had a really fun trip. But there was a part of my trip kind of that I forgot to mention. And it's nothing great, but it's just like, I feel like it belongs in that video, so I'll just tack it onto this one. So when we knew we were going, I looked up the comic book stores, because I'm like, where can I go?
That's what I did.
Yeah. The thing my wife did, because she's really into like... what's the word I'm looking for? Like archaeology, and like... She wants to go to museums and kind of look at artifacts and stuff like that. So she was kind of looking at what her options were, and she was wondering if we should go to like the Natural History Museum. But it was like, we're talking. I went to Toronto, and it was like the museums are really big. We could have probably spent all day there, and we didn't really have a whole lot of time. So she was trying to find something that she could do that wasn't too time consuming. Anyway, she found this museum. I forget what it was called exactly, but there was a store attached to it called the Skull Store, and they sell like skulls and stuff. And Vanessa was like, I really want to go see this. And she's interested in like old human remains, and like Egyptology is one of her like favorite subjects, and they had like Egyptian artifacts and stuff. So we were downtown Toronto. They have like the shopping district, I guess you'd call it. They almost have their own little quaint version of Times Square. They've got this area where there's all kinds of billboards all lit up.
Dundas Square.
Dundas Square, I guess.
Yeah.
So we were there, and then we're like, okay, we're looking at Google Maps, and we're like, okay, we just walked this way a few blocks. And it was about a 25-minute walk from there. But I couldn't believe how quickly it got sketchy. Like, we were in the main part, and then all of a sudden there was like guys walking around smoking meth and kind of like hobbling after us, asking us for money, and we're like, there's like human shit on the streets and stuff. We're like, oh man, this got like really sketchy really fast. Like, everybody's shopping like 2 blocks over. And the deeper we get into this, I was thinking like, okay, there's a museum down here somewhere, and we get to this basically abandoned warehouse with all the windows are like blacked out. It didn't look like a museum. Like, if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't know what it was. And we're like, what is this place? We walk in. As soon as you go in the front door, you can hear like parrots squawking and stuff. and there was nobody there. So we're like walking in, and we're like, okay, we go through this like dark curtain, and then there's like a full size like T-Rex skeleton, and then all kinds of skeletons everywhere, like human skeletons, animal skeletons. And we're looking around like, what is this crazy place? Like, where is everybody? Like, there was no fee to pay up front. There was nobody to greet us at the front door. And we were walking around in there for about like 15 minutes. And I was taking video of this crazy stuff. They had all kinds of like two-headed animals, like taxidermied and stuff. Two-headed goats and turtles. And they had some other, it wasn't just skulls and stuff. They also had like World War II, like Nazi memorabilia. And they had a bunch of space age stuff and pieces of nuclear bombs, and like it was a ton of weird stuff. And then finally this guy walks out and he's like, oh, are you enjoying my collection? And he looked like Weird Al, but he was about like 5 feet tall.
Oh, it's a random collection.
Yeah, and we're like, yeah, this is your stuff? He's like, yes, I've accumulated over the last 10 years. And like, it took me like my lifetime to accumulate this collection of $30 toys. This was a gigantic like hanger full of like sarcophaguses and skeletons, and like you assembled this in 10 years. And the guy looked like he was about my age, if not younger. And I was like, yeah, it's an interesting collection. And he starts telling us stories about everything in there. He's like, yeah, this bear here, he had a full-size stuffed like taxidermied bear. He's like, this killed 3 teenagers in like Calgary. And he's like, and then they hunted it down after it killed those people, and they stuffed it and they put it in their local museum. But the townsfolk were like, they didn't want this animal, and so he's like, so I got it for a really great price. And he's showing us this stuff that like killed people. And we're like, oh, that's creepy. And there's a big whale skeleton like hanging off the ceiling, like you expect to see in like a real museum.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you see this whale? He's like, I was up in Nova Scotia, which is where we're from, where we're at right now. And so he's like, yeah, I was in Nova Scotia looking for seal carcasses for my museum. And I stumbled across this whale on the beach. And he's like, but I wasn't prepared for a whale, so all I had with me was a box cutter. So I hacked up this whale with a box cutter, and I had to throw it in a bunch of tubs, and I had to drive it from Nova Scotia back to Toronto with like 1,500 tons of rotting whale meat in the back of my van and stuff. And it was like, as he was telling us this story, that it started dawning on me that like, I'm not sure we're going to leave here alive. Like, we're in the middle of a super sketchy middle of nowhere. There's this little weirdo magician. We're surrounded by human skeletons and like oddities. And so yeah, I was a little creeped out, and I was kind of keeping my distance. I was making sure my back wasn't turned to him at any point. But anyway, he seemed fine, and we're alive. And there was the skull store was the store that was kind of attached to it, and he was selling like human skulls. There was little tubes with human brains and human vertebrae. And again, I consider myself a city guy. Maybe this is normal out in the country, but he was just selling like coyote faces, which was just like looks like a whole face, not just like a mink shawl or something. It was like the nose and the ears and the eye holes were still on it. And they were just like hooks through them hanging off of like a coat rack. You could buy like coyote faces for $5. And it was just like, it was super weird, super creepy. My wife Vanessa really enjoyed it, so I'm glad she did. She ended up buying a couple of like taxidermy bugs, I guess you call them. You get the butterflies that are like pinned up in a box. So she bought like 3 kind of exotic bugs, and then she bought a piece of mummy skin, which just looks like a little square of dirt, and it was $35 for a piece of mummy skin. She was stoked about that. And some Greco-Roman coin or something from...
Nice.
Yeah, anyway. So, it was a weird little story, and I just kind of wanted to...
That's quite the feat to hack a whale.
Yeah.
Especially, that's also highly illegal.
Well, he said he guessed the thing had been sitting there rotting for about a month, so it wasn't like a freshly washed up whale. It was
okay.
Anyway, this guy was interesting. I found I'll put a picture of him up because I found him online. I would recommend you check it out if you're in Toronto, but if you get murdered there,
it's not your fault.
It's not on me. Just be warned. He seems very eccentric.
Yeah.
But, it was neat, I guess.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Did I have anything else I wanted to touch on? Well, the last thing I kind of wanted to do, I'm not going to review any of these toys on this particular episode. I consider this a teaser for stuff that will be done in future reviews. But today, or a couple hours ago, this box from Big Bad Toy Store came.
Oh, I love when you open new boxes.
And I wanted to know, do you want to do the honors?
No, it's your box.
Yeah, but see, at least I know what's in here, but I thought...
No, it's always a treat to get a present in the mail, so...
Okay, so I'm going to open up, you're going to get a little unboxing for stuff that I will review in future episodes. So...
Yeah, that's what he hacked.
This is what Buddy used to hack a whale up with.
Oh, God.
Okay. So, lots of bubble wrap.
Oh, boy.
Okay. So, this is my first Marvel Legend with the new packaging. So, Hasbro has went to no plastic packaging. So, this is Iron Spider-Man from the Civil War storyline. So yeah, I have seen these in stores, not this figure, but some of the new wave of them in the boxes. I'm curious as to how they're moving, because you see them in the stores next to other figures in the classic plastic blister pack, and do people even know what these are? Like, they almost look like there'd be like it's a game or a puzzle. Like, it doesn't look like an action figure. It might take a while for people to get used to this.
I think I mentioned on one of the past episodes that I did a paper on sustainability and toy production and how giant companies are switching to like basically limited plastic on the packaging and using soy ink instead. I don't know how I feel about it. I would, like, as a collector, I know what the figure looks like, but some random person, like a kid, might be like, I don't know what that is.
And I think we talked about this, so I don't want to rehash it all right now. But, like, people are concerned that people are going to, like, swap the figures. Like, I can buy this at Walmart, go home, open it up, put some piece of junk figure inside,
like
go
that John Stewart.
Yeah.
Green Lantern I sent you.
Yeah, people swap the figures out. Another thing is, if you were in the store and you saw a whole bunch of these on the pegs, collectors like to go through all the figures and find the one with the best paint apps and stuff. For me, I'd be lying if I said that was a concern, because I buy most of my figures online. So if this was in a clear bubble or not, I would have just had to get the figure Big Bad Toy sent to me. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not that bothered by it because I open my action figures. I'm all for sustainability and everything. I just don't know if I really believe that's why Hasbro is doing it, because they haven't. They've actually raised the price instead of lowered it. So anyway,
well, it's also a lot cheaper to produce just cardboard boxes than plastic.
Well, exactly. So I would think, like, okay, because figures have already gone up from $30 to $35. They're creeping up to $40. Yeah. So yeah, you're giving me cardboard boxes. That should stall the price increases.
Yeah.
But now I've seen these ones selling for like $44 and stuff. It's crazy. So I have a few of these. I was already talking about the little 3 3/4 inch retro figures. So I have some of the Marvel stuff that Hasbro's been doing, but I've been trying to buy them sparingly. Again, if you see behind Chad there, you can see the packaging I have up. It's on these retro packaging, so I've got Bullseye, Venom, Green Goblin, Spider-Man, a couple characters like that. But I only have a handful of them because I buy the 6-inch Marvel Legends for the most part. But my older brother, he got really into these figures in just like the past couple of weeks. He went out to a store and he bought like the whole wave. So he went from having none to having about 10 of them. And he was like, I really like these things. And I was like, cool. And then he called me the next day. He's like, I went out and bought a couple of more. So now he's up to like 14 of them very quickly. And I'll be honest, just his excitement of it has fueled my excitement. So originally, with this pile of loot, so the reason I have so much stuff here is because with Big Bad, you order stuff and it piles up. And then you can tell them, okay, that's enough stuff. Ship it to me now. It's a way to kind of save on shipping costs. So I had pre-ordered this Moon Knight retro figure. And so this is the only character I was really anticipating getting in this box.
That's attractive.
Yeah, and Moon Knight's one of my favorite characters. I don't want to buy just like any generic character. Yeah. The guys I have back there, Venom, Green Goblin and stuff. Those guys are my favorites. But after Doug expressed so much excitement about it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw a couple more figures because I knew I was going to have this shipped out to me like within a day or two. So I added Daredevil. So there is the Retro Daredevil. And since I have Bullseye, his arch enemy, I figured it makes sense to have Daredevil. And the other one of these that I added is pretty cool. This is the Excellent Sentinel. So you can see it's supposed to be kind of in scale with the 3 3/4 figures, but because Sentinels are so large, they did this jumbo size blister card and jumbo Sentinel. So this guy was a little more than double the price of the other guys, but he's pretty cool.
That is really nice.
And you see he's got two
heads.
Two heads.
Thank you, Marvel.
So if you did, one of them is battle damaged. So if you wanted to buy 2 of them to have like a little army, you can have one with each head. So that way you don't feel like you're just buying the exact same figure over and over again.
Are you gonna open this one?
Yes.
And if you do, which head will you display it with?
The standard head, probably.
Yeah.
But who knows? I might want to get 2 of them down the road. Anyway, we won't talk too much about any of these things because I'm going to review them all in another episode. For Transformers, I've got G-Axis. So this is another, you'll see this is Hasbro's new packaging. So it's not a fully sealed box, but there's no plastic. So I can reach right in there and touch the figure, which, you know, that's an option as well. But people are running into problems with that too because people are like popping heads off or stealing the guns out of here or something like that. So I'm not so worried about that buying it from a retailer online. But if I went into Walmart and saw this figure that I've been hunting for and his head was ripped off or something, that'd be kind of a piss up. So, so that's him. I think there's another Transformer in here as well. Yep. So this is Wild Rider. This is one of the Stunticons. So that's a combiner. They form Menasor. So, this is my first one from this particular combiner. I think I have Dragstrip already. The yellow, Dragster. So this is the second one. So there's still 3 more Stunticons I need in order to complete Menasor. Do you want me to take him off your hands?
Yeah, sure.
And then, I've got another Marvel Legend. I almost forgot about him. So this is Firelord. He is one of the Heralds of Galactus. So after Silver Surfer stopped serving Galactus, he went through a whole bunch of other guys to kind of be his henchmen. And so Firelord was one of them for a while. And so you see he comes on that retro style packaging. It's supposed to look like the Fantastic Four figures of the 90s. So that's pretty cool. And then I've got the newest wave of Masters of the Universe figures. And this is kind of a funky wave. So these are the Masters of the Universe Origins. So they're modeled in the kind of 1980s style.
Squatty.
Based on, those 80s toys. They're squatty, small, except they have increased articulation and all that sort of stuff. So I have a whole bunch of them over there, and they look a lot like the toys I owned as a kid. These ones, not so much. So here we have He-Man. But this He-Man, it might be a little hard to tell in this kind of wider shot, but this is based off of He-Man's updated look from the 2002 cartoon. Yeah. So he's got new armor, he's got a new power sword, and his hair is a little more anime inspired and stuff. So it's a new look for He-Man. So not based off of a vintage 80s toy, but actually based off a toy from 2002. And here's the accompanying Skeletor. So again, he looks like a pretty classic Skeletor, blue, purple, yellow skull face. But there are some kind of small details that tip you off that this is the 2002 Skeletor. So he's got
face update.
Yeah, and just his armor, his weapons, so he's just a little bit more of a contemporary version. So it's just weird to get this updated version done in the retro style. Another figure I've got here is, for those of you that have watched my Masters of the Universe videos, I usually review full waves, and I'll do that again with this wave later. But I got Sunman a little while ago. Yeah. And Sunman was a character that was not a vintage Masters of the Universe character. He was from basically a line of knockoff figures, but Mattel has integrated him into the line.
He was the one that was designed by the kid, right? The kid's mom?
The kid's mom. So yeah, it was about the idea of it. I talked about it in that episode. Was there wasn't enough minorities in Masters of the Universe, and there was this African American mother who wanted to buy a figure for her son, so she designed her own toys, and all the characters were minorities. So there was a black guy, a Chinese guy, whatever else. So Sunman, the main character, the black character, Mattel had bought him up, and they've integrated him into the line. This here, he's not really a minority so much, but he's a pig man. You don't see a whole lot of them running around. So this guy is Pighead. So this was the kind of monstrous villain from the Sunman toy line.
Right.
And now he has been integrated into the Origins line. Now, the last thing I have in the box here, it's the fourth figure from this wave. This is the one that is the most classic. It's based off of a vintage Masters of the Universe toy.
Mantenna?
This is Mantenna, who... He's a close second for my favorite character.
He was one of my favorites in the cartoon.
Yeah, after Merman, I was all about Mantenna. Mantenna's eyes bug out.
Yeah.
Now, the cool thing about this figure is that the vintage figure, he had 4 legs, but you wouldn't really know. Because he really only had 2 legs, but they were kind of sculpted to look like he had little legs, but they were just sculpted together. But in the cartoon, he walked around with 4 unique legs. But obviously they thought that was going to be too hard to pull off in the vintage toy line. However, in modern versions of Mantenna, I think there's 1 or 2 right behind me. Good. Anyway, they've given him the 4 legs. So this one here, this Origins figure, looks like the vintage 80s figure, except they actually gave him, I don't know if you can see it while he's in package, but he has 4 unique legs rather than just 2 thick legs. And I'll do a side-by-side, not in this video, but stay tuned for when I review Wave... I think this is Wave 9 of Origins. So I'll do a video labeled Masters of the Universe Origins Wave 9 if you want to see more details on these guys. And I'll do the comparison with the vintage figure and the more modern figures and all that stuff.
That's really cool.
So, that was the unboxing.
Comic booking.
Let's call this Comic Book Corner.
So
Here's Comic Book Corner. These are some things I recently read, or I'm about to read. So I got the new, Devil's Reign. This is a spin-off from the Daredevil book. So This seemed like it was going to be the end of Chip Zdarsky's run on Daredevil because he was leaving to go to Batman. But really, he just started a new Daredevil comic book at a new #1. This was just kind of the ending of a chapter.
Okay.
And now Daredevil, I think he's kind of going international, and he's kind of gotten rid of his alter ego of Matt Murdock. So this was good. Really nice artwork. I don't know this guy. The artist is...
Chicchetto.
Yeah, so I enjoyed this, but I don't know, it feels like for Zdarsky, who's getting heralded as like a really good writer, and now he is on Batman probably because of the work he did on this.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff that feels a little bit been there, done that. Like this is about the Kingpin getting replaced from the Kingpin of crime. It's like, okay, well, we've kind of seen that. Kingpin is currently serving as the mayor of New York in the Marvel Universe. And so to dethrone him, Luke Cage is running for mayor. And I feel like, we've had Lex Luthor as president. We've had J. Jonah Jameson as mayor. Kingpin as mayor. We had Matt Murdock, Daredevil, as mayor. Like, having a superhero as mayor has kind of been done. Also, Daredevil has been in jail. And they did a Daredevil in jail story a few years ago. And the kind of what brings this storyline to a head in this is that the Kingpin... basically starts a superhero registration act.
Okay.
He outlaws superheroes, which that was the plot of the Civil War comic book from a few years ago. So, I enjoyed it, but, every time they did something in this, I'm like, oh, they're doing that again. The Kingpin's son is replacing him. Daredevil's in jail. Superheroes are banned. There's a superhero running for mayor. So, I have mixed feelings about this. I don't know. I wouldn't, not bad in any means, and if you haven't read any of those other stories... But maybe it just made me feel like maybe I've been reading comic books too long. Because I've been reading for 35, 38 years or something. Yeah. And I'm starting to feel like, maybe some of these writers are just... It's almost like remaking a movie you've used to love. Anyway. I also just read the... so that was Devil's Reign. This is Crimson Reign. This is a Star Wars book. And have you read any of Marvel's Star Wars?
No, I haven't.
Some of it's really good, but then a lot of it just feels like filler, and that's kind of what this felt like. This is a storyline that just spun out of... They did a storyline called War of the Bounty Hunters.
Okay.
And there's a few Star Wars comics that Marvel publishes. They publish Star Wars, which follows Luke and Han and Leia. Then they do Darth Vader, which follows Darth Vader. Then they do a book called Bounty Hunters, which follows all the Bounty Hunters. They do one called Dr. Aphra, which follows an original Marvel-created character named Dr. Aphra. And they sometimes do other little spin-offs and miniseries. So that War of the Bounty Hunters, it took up, I think, like 3 issues of Star Wars, 3 issues of Bounty Hunters, 3 issues of Dr. Aphra, plus it was a 6-issue miniseries on its own, plus there was all these one-offs and spin-offs, so like IG-88, War of the Bounty Hunters, Boss, War of the Bounty Hunters. So all in told, it must have been like, say, 28 issues, and they told the same story over and over again. The basic premise was that, like, at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Boba Fett takes off with Han Solo and Carbonite.
Carbonite, yeah.
And at the start of Return of the Jedi, it's in Jabba's palace. This story is supposed to take place between those movies where Boba loses the Carbonite Han, and all the bounty hunters are trying to chase it down. So you already know how it's going to end anyway. It's already going to end up at Jabba's palace. So I'm reading like nearly 30 comics worth of telling me a story of...
You already know.
And it's just like, I was bored, and I was like, why did it take 28 issues to tell this story? If you told it over 3 or 4 issues, I would have been fine with that. And now this story here, it follows it up, and it felt just as useless. So this is Crimson Reign. It collects the actual Crimson Reign miniseries, which was like 5 or 6 issues. But now there's going to be Star Wars Crimson Reign, War of the Bounty Hunters Crimson Reign, Dr. Aphra Crimson Reign. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I have it in me to buy all that stuff. It feels like a waste of time. And it's not bad. Like, the writing's good, the art's good. It's just like it's hard to care. Now these I haven't read yet, but finally I've been waiting to read
Joker War.
Not so much Joker War. I don't have high expectations for Joker War, but I like the character of Batman. I don't read it religiously, but whenever a new creative team comes on board, I'm interested. And this writer here, I don't know if it's James Tynion or Tinian. James the Fourth, we'll call him, because he's James Tinian the Fourth, right?
And Jorge.
Well, yeah, and then the artist is Jorge Jimenez, which I love. So it's a great creative team, and they were at it so long that they've moved on. Yeah. Like, they're off of the book now. And they put out a lot of stuff together. I've been waiting for DC to collect it, because I don't buy it monthly. I was been waiting for these collections. And I thought, like, did I miss them? Where are they? DC's been, like, really dragging their heels. I think maybe they put them out as hardcovers, but not as soft covers. Anyway, I was in just, like, a regular bookstore the other day, and I found both volumes. And I thought, well, I'll buy volume 1, and if I like it, I'll come back for 2. I'm like, well, I don't want to... If this disappears again, they seem hard to find. So I bought them both. Yeah. So hopefully I enjoy them. I'll be reading these in the coming...
What's the second one? Sorry. There's Joker War and
the Dark Designs.
Yeah.
So this one, it doesn't... Jimenez wasn't on this whole run. He's in it partially, I think. But anyway, looking forward to reading them. Hopefully they're good. So yeah, now we're over an hour. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or we're going to go to another episode in a minute?
I mean, we can pick up there.
Okay. Well, so yeah, this was just a whole mishmash of stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If not, well, whatever. Okay, so let's wrap up. We'll start a new episode. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us comments, please. Recommend us to a friend. All right, until next time. Ciao.
Take care.